Hi, I'm Chuck Vernon. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. I love getting together with family and friends, watching American football, which is my favorite sport, and of course, sitting down to a big traditional meal with turkey, corn, stuffed mashed potatoes, and various other things, including my favorite thing, pumpkin pie. The American Chamber of Commerce asked me to do a short video about how my family and I actually make pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving. We're going to show you how to do it the sort of hard way, but there will be other ways to make it a little bit easier and quicker for those who can. Before we get to the pumpkin pie making, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about Thanksgiving in general. Thanksgiving had been a holiday, it's a quintessential American holiday. There's been a holiday in America for centuries, since the 1600s. Even George Washington actually had a day of giving thanks when he became president. However, it wasn't until Abraham Lincoln in 1863 that the Thanksgiving started becoming more recognized in the United States. Up to then, it had really been sort of a northeastern tradition, and the West didn't really recognize it very much. However, Lincoln established it as a day of thanks. After that, every president also announced a day of thanks every year, usually on the last Thursday of November. That was until 1939, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt decided he would move Thanksgiving to be earlier in November. One of the things that Thanksgiving is famous for, besides the eating and the football, is the day after Thanksgiving on Friday is the largest shopping day in America, better known as Black Friday. So, FDR, in the middle of the Great Depression, thought he would try to start Christmas shopping a little bit early to help the economy and moved Thanksgiving into earlier in November. It wasn't a very popular move. So in 1941, as a compromise with Congress, they created a national holiday of Thanksgiving on the fourth Thursday of November, sort of splitting the difference. And since then, it has been the national recognized holiday. By the way, Thanksgiving is the largest American holiday there is, much bigger than Christmas and the other holidays, and is the #1 travel day in America. It is very traditional for everybody to get together with their families and friends and to basically celebrate this as a glorious moment of giving thanks to all the good things that have happened during the year. As I said, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, mostly because of the nature of holiday. No matter where you come from, what culture you're from, what country you may have come from, whether you arrived in America in the 1600s or yesterday, Thanksgiving is celebrated by all of us as just a day to get together with family and friends and say thanks. Anyway, now, let's get to making pumpkin pie. Now, the most important part of pumpkin pie is, of course, the kava. Well, actually, I think that's a different video. Sorry. The most important part is pumpkin. Now, traditionally, you would make pumpkin pie in America, to be all fairness, is you would actually buy Libby's canned pumpkin pie mix. Here is what the label would look like. As you can see, there's actually a recipe on it, which is more or less the recipe that we use. I spent decades actually carrying cans of pumpkin pie mix all over the world. No matter where we were or what we were doing, I would always have a suitcase full of these cans. I got really tired of carrying those heavy cans. So one day my wife looked at me and said, "Can't we just make pumpkin pie out of pumpkin?" And I was pretty much like, I have never seen that done before. So she came up with an idea of how to actually process the pumpkin and how to do it correctly. The real key is the consistency. The real problem about using pumpkin is it's kind of stringy and you have to process it in a way to make it very smooth, okay? And this is what we're going to do. Now, we're going to cut the pumpkin. Hi, now we actually have the cook who's actually going to explain how we actually do this. But before we get started, take a look at this. This is the actual recipe that we'll be using, and we'll put it into metric so you can actually use the right instruments and get the right ingredients and volumes.
In order to process the pumpkin, we're going to use a steamer. It's a very simple implement device, okay? We're not going to boil the pumpkin because it's going to lose some of its flavor. You can, of course, boil it. It's going to be just as good, but probably a little less flavorful. We're going to cut the pumpkin into pieces. We're not going to peel it now because it's very hard to peel when it's so tough. We're going to put the pieces into the steamer and steam them until they're really, really soft. After that, we're going to peel the skin off and blend the pumpkin into a very, very smooth composition. Okay, so let's see, Chuck, how it's done.
All right, I'm not sure if you can see me, but here I am with a knife. All right, if I remember correctly, I am to cut the pumpkin like this because the seeds are here and this is really pure pumpkin. So we're going to separate this. Is that right?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's pretty tough. That's why I have him do it.
Wow. You're right. This is tough. Okay, there we go. You see?
Okay.
All pumpkin. All right. Where do I go from here? Cut this like
In half.
like this?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I actually sharpened the knife for this too. Isn't that kind of scary? Here we go. See?
Now I'm going to scoop out the seeds. Okay. And then you cut it into slices and put it in there.
Okay, like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, the key here is to not cut it into small pieces, but not too big either. So you kind of want these medium-sized pieces, about like this. All right?
So here we have the pumpkin, okay? Chuck soldiered on and managed to cut it all, okay? We're gonna put water. So the water goes to the base. We put it on the stove and it will create the steam that's going to steam up our pumpkin. We don't add anything at this time. No salt, no nothing. And we put it on the stove. Okay? A few words about the seeds. I never throw away the seeds because they're very valuable. They have a lot of vitamins, minerals, and important stuff. So I wash them in this sieve and then I put them to dry on a piece of paper. And we're gonna eat them later, okay? Don't use paper towels. Just a tip. They get so sticky and they become glued to the paper towels, you'll never be able to get them unstuck. So this is it. In about 2 days, we're gonna have beautiful pumpkin seeds. Well, let's check if the pumpkin is done, okay? Chuck will bring over the pot so we can take a look at it. Okay, take the lid off. Alright, so it should be really, really soft when we put the fork through. Ouch! The steam is very hot. Okay, it took about 15-20 minutes. It takes less time to steam than boil because the steam is very, very hot. Okay, I think it's done. What we're going to do now is I'm going to move the pumpkin pieces into a bowl where it will cool until we can touch it in order to peel it and blend it. Okay, see? It's soft. The fork goes in very, very easily. Okay.
Hello. Now, we have steamed the pumpkin. We have taken it out of the pot and let it cool. And now we have to peel the pumpkin. You'll see that there is a hard sort of outside here, and this is what we're going to take off in order to mix the pumpkin pie. We do it simply by just, with a little sharp knife, we just peel it away. We wait till it's cooled down because obviously it's pretty hot from steaming. As we said before at the beginning of these things, the real secret to making pumpkin pie from scratch like this is the consistency of this. So we really want this to be soft, and at the end we're going to want it to be sort of very creamy and well blended, which we will do as soon as we've done this. Now, it only will take a few minutes, but you know, this is sort of the fun part. Normally I would have that glass of cava in my hand already, but not yet. Anyway, we're going to basically finish peeling this off, and then we'll get back to you in just a second with the mixing.
Okay, now we're going to blend the pumpkin. I'm using a handheld blender, but you can use a standing one or whatever you have. It blends really easily because it's very soft. And we're going to keep doing it until it's very smooth. So it's smooth like this, okay? And this is it. The pumpkin is ready. We can move on to the next step. Now about the pie crust and the type of dough that we're going to use and the size of the pie pan. I use my own recipe for the pie crust. I have it from my mother. It works very well. Here it is. You can do it yourself. You have all the instructions. This recipe makes 4 pie shells. You can just cut it in quarters and freeze them. You can keep them frozen for a few months, no problem. Just make sure to write the date on it. If you keep it longer than 2 or 3 months, it will slightly oxidate, but that's no problem. You can still use it. Okay. Obviously, you have to take it out of the freezer sometime, a few hours before you want to use it, if you want to be able to roll it. You can also use store-bought pie crust, of course, or you can use another recipe that you like. To remember that you only need the crust on the bottom. There's no crust on top, right? So we just need the bottom, and we pour the mix in the pie crust. So now let's roll. So I finished rolling the dough. And I'm going to pick it up, put it in the pan. There we go. You can also cut the edges off from the pie crust, but I like to just tuck them in nicely and then arrange them nicely on the side of the pan. Okay, like this. All right, so this is our pie shell all ready to go. All right, now we have all the ingredients set out from the recipe. Now's the time to turn the oven on. You will have to turn it on to 220 degrees centigrade for the first 15 minutes, and then you turn the heat down to, 170 for another 30 to 40 minutes, okay? The quantity of pumpkin for a 28 centimeter wide dish, you're using around 800 grams of pumpkin. We have here set out the spices. We have ginger, cloves, and cinnamon, okay? And I put all the spices here. We have salt. We have the eggs. Because we had very small eggs, I'm using 4. If you have larger eggs, you can use 3. This is the sugar, and this is the condensed milk. And now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to mix the sugar with the salt and the spices. We're going to blend them well in. Okay. It smells nice already. Okay. This is very easy. It doesn't require any excessive beating or mixing. We're just incorporating and homogenizing the ingredients, that's all. So there we go. The sugar is mixed with the spices. We're making sure that there's no agglomeration, that they're all nicely blended in, okay? And then we put the sugar spice mix on the pumpkin. Then we add the eggs. And then we add the milk.
Now that's condensed milk, right?
Condensed milk, yes. You can also, if you don't have condensed milk, you can use cream. But if you use cream, I advise you to also use a spoon of starch in order to help it set better. Now, here's the mix. It looks a little liquid. Don't worry about that. It'll set. All right, here we are. So the oven is hot now. It just beeped. So I'm going to pour the mix into the pie shell and put it in the oven. There we go. There you go. All the way to the top. Now I'm going to put it in the oven. As I said, 15 minutes on the higher temperature and then another 30 to 35 minutes on the lower temperature, right? It's all in the recipe. Okay, here we are. I took the pie out. The pie is now done. I took it out of the oven. If I take a toothpick and put it in the middle, it comes out clean. So now we have to let it cool. We're not going to cut the pie until it is completely cold. Actually, it's better if you just let it cool right here until it gets cold. Oops, the oven is finished. And then put it in the refrigerator and cut it the next day.
Thank you again for watching our video today. I hope really that it works out when you try to make it. It has always been pretty good for us, so I do wish you the best of luck. Now, for the real test of the day, now I get to take a bite. Normally we would serve this either with fresh whipped cream or vanilla ice cream. I like both, but I kind of favor the whipped cream more than the ice cream personally. But since nobody else is here and nobody else is watching, I'm going to sneak a piece real quick before anybody wakes up today. Anyway, ooh, yum. This is actually really good. Thanks again. Have a great holiday. Have a happy Thanksgiving and stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.